the green border and fake honesty box. My sister's boyfriend Phil had been involved in a car crash and received quite a bit of gravel rash along with a bunged up knee. She took me to visit him after about 3 weeks in hospital. He told me that he had been saving something for me and handed me a jar. I looked at its contents and could not work out what it was. He then told me that it was his scabs, as they had peeled off. It sickened me in my stomach and I nearly dropped the jar. I looked at him and he had a straight face. I felt obliged to humbly and meekly thank him for the gift. He burst into laughter and I realised the joke was on me. He then told me to hand them back because he was hungry. I never knew when he was joking. When I was 13, Dad decided to take my brother and I for a drive to Cairns for a holiday and visit my sister. The journey was long and, as a young boy, mostly boring to me. As we neared the end of our journey between Townsville and Cairns, we passed through the small town of Cardwell. On the outskirts, the environment unexpectedly turned lush. I had never seen such abundant and thick flora. We had truly entered a jungle. It was as though we had just passed a green border. The air smelt and felt different. The rainforest canopy formed an arch across some parts of the road. I could see scurrying wildlife and hear an orchestra of birds. As we drove along, mesmerised by the diversity, I could see a stall on the side of the road full of fruits I had never seen. There were vivid vegetables and brightly coloured bunches of flowers. That's when I noticed the sign that read, "Honesty Box." I immediately laughed and relayed to my dad and brother that it was a setup to catch thieves. Where I had come from, no such thing could possibly exist. My dad began to explain that people were different in this part of the world and that people wanted to be able to trust that others would be fair and do the right thing. I quickly dismissed his theory as old school ignorance. We only got up the road about another mile when there was yet another stall with the same sign. I was stunned and silent. I wondered if we had entered a time warp, or maybe a futuristic idealistic society. Maybe people here were so far away from the big city that they had never had reason not to trust each other. I eventually opted for the latter. We arrived and stayed with my sister and Phil at their home on the foreshore of Machen's Beach. Phil and I would get up at the crack of dawn and use the dragnet along the water of the beachfront to catch prawns. We could catch bucket loads as big as bananas. We cooked them up for breakfast and it was as though we were eating like royalty. A couple of years later, my brother Danny decided to move to Cairns to live with his girlfriend Anne-Marie. Mum and Dad divorced at around age 14, and the next year, in 1982, Mum and I followed my brother and sister north to settle in Cairns and its surrounds.